I had already secured my fortune, protecting myself from the people I thought I could trust. When my cancer diagnosis came, my family saw it as an opportunity, taking what they could: money, property, even relationships. The people I once relied on turned their backs on me, but I wasn't as vulnerable as they thought. Despite everything they took, I had prepared for this moment. I had ensured that my future was safe, and now, I was ready to face my battle, with or without them. Before we dive back in, let us know where you're tuning in from. If this story resonates with you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow, I've got something even more special lined up just for you. The call came in the middle of the night. It was a call that would change everything. I had been asleep, drifting in and out of a restless slumber, trying to rest after what felt like endless rounds of treatments and doctor's visits. The diagnosis had shattered me. Cancer. It was a word I thought I would never hear, something that seemed so far removed from my reality. But there it was, hanging in the air like an ominous cloud, impossible to escape. I remember the sharp ring of my phone, cutting through the silence of my bedroom. My hand fumbled in the dark, struggling to find the device. When I finally saw the name on the screen, I froze. It was my sister, Clara. We hadn't spoken much recently, but her name still filled me with a sense of duty and love. I had always looked out for her. Since we were kids, I had been the one to protect her, the one she turned to for support. Even now, with the weight of cancer pressing on me, I felt an obligation to answer. Clara. My voice cracked, and I instantly regretted the vulnerability in it. I hated sounding weak, but the exhaustion of my condition had worn me down. She didn't answer right away. For a few seconds, the only sound was the hum of the phone. Then finally, her voice came through, distorted by static and distance. "I need to talk to you," she said. The coldness in her tone sent a chill through me, an unfamiliar sharpness that felt like a dagger to my heart. "Clara, what's wrong?" I sat up, my heart pounding in my chest. I could feel the tension in her voice. She was hiding something, and I didn't know if I was ready to hear it. There was a long pause before she spoke again. "I'm sorry, but we've made decisions without you. Your condition. It's affecting all of us. And we've been thinking about what's best for the family." "Family?" I repeated, confused. "What are you talking about?" Her words rushed out, each one sharper than the last. "We need to sell the house. The bills are piling up, and your medical expenses. Well, they're too much for any of us to handle. You're not getting better, and we don't know how long we can keep up with everything. Mom and Dad have already decided, and we're going to move forward with it." My head spun. It felt like the world had suddenly gone numb. I gripped the phone harder, trying to steady myself. "What are you saying?" I whispered. "You're selling the house? Without talking to me? It's just too much. We don't have the resources, and we can't keep supporting you the way we have been. It's time to make a change, for everyone's sake." The words hit me like a physical blow, stealing the breath from my lungs. My mind raced, trying to comprehend what I was hearing. My family, my own flesh and blood, had decided to abandon me, to strip away the one place I thought I could always return to, the one place that had held all my memories. My sanctuary was being sold off, without so much as a conversation. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but my voice faltered. Instead, I felt a wave of emotion crash over me: anger, betrayal, and profound sadness. It was too much to process in a single moment, and yet, it was all unfolding right before me. "Clara, how could you do this?" I choked out, the tears threatening to spill but somehow staying trapped behind the dam of my disbelief. There was a slight hesitation before Clara spoke again, her tone softer but still firm. "I'm sorry, but it's what needs to happen. We can't keep going on like this. We have to face the reality of the situation." "Reality?" I hissed, my grip tightening on the phone. "You're telling me that the reality is to sell everything I've worked for, everything that's been my home for years? Because I'm sick? Because I might not make it?" I could hear her trying to formulate a response, but I didn't give her the chance. You can't do this. You have no right to take what's mine. This house is my life. This is where I've poured everything I had, everything I was building. And now you're telling me it's not enough. I'm sorry, she repeated, her voice hollow. But we don't have a choice. We've already talked to a lawyer. The words hit me harder than anything else she had said. A lawyer. They had already taken the steps to cut me out, to begin the process of selling off the family home without my consent. It felt like a gut punch. The betrayal wasn't just in the decision itself. It was in the cold efficiency with which they had carried it out. They didn't need me. They didn't even want to include me in the process. I sat there in the dark, my heart pounding in my chest, as the reality of the situation began to sink in. The family I had sacrificed so much for, the family I had believed in, had decided that I was no longer worth the investment. My illness, my struggle, had become a burden to them. And in that moment, I realized that I had nothing left to lose. I had been abandoned in every sense of the word. My family had turned their backs on me when I needed them the most. And yet, something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to let them strip everything from me. Not my home, not my dignity, not my future. But what could I do? They were in control. Or so I thought. As I sat there, the weight of betrayal heavy in the air, I knew this was only the beginning. What came next would be a fight, not just for my home, but for everything I had worked for. I had to find a way to regain control, to take back what was mine. And deep down, I knew I had a secret, something I had kept hidden for years, that would change everything. Looking back, I had always believed that family was everything. It was a lesson instilled in me from a young age. My parents were hard-working people, and they raised me and Clara with a sense of responsibility toward one another. We were taught to share everything, our love, our time, our possessions. Growing up, the three of us, Mom, Dad, and I, had always worked together to create a life of stability. I remember the sacrifices they made for us. My father worked 2 jobs, his hands calloused from hours of labor, just to put food on the table. My mother, though soft-spoken, never hesitated to give up something of her own so that Clara and I would have what we needed. It was a hard but comforting life. We weren't rich, but we were solid, bonded by love, dedication, and a deep sense of loyalty to each other. Through those early years, I learned what it meant to care for someone, to be there for them even when it hurt. I was the older sibling, the one who stepped in when Mom and Dad couldn't, the one who kept an eye on Clara when she got into trouble, the one who made sure everyone was okay. I was the rock that held us together, the person who absorbed the worries and fears of the household, quietly taking on the weight of the world while always offering a smile to reassure everyone else. When Clara was younger, I took on the role of second parent. Our parents struggled to make ends meet, and I became the one who made sure Clara did her homework, ate dinner, and went to bed on time. There were countless nights where I stayed up late, watching over her, trying to teach her the things she would need to know. I was proud of that role, proud of the fact that I could make her life a little easier. We weren't rich, but we had each other. As we grew older, I continued to be the one Clara relied on. I paid for her first car, helped her with college applications, and even offered her a place to stay when she went through a rough breakup. No matter the cost to me, whether it was time, energy, or money, I always made sure Clara knew she could count on me. I would do anything for her, no matter the sacrifice. But somewhere along the way, the lines blurred. Clara, who had once needed me, started to take my support for granted. She got married, had children, and began living her own life. Still, I was there, offering help whenever she asked, bending over backwards to make sure her family was taken care of. I didn't mind. In fact, I was proud to be there, to be part of her success, her happiness. After all, wasn't that what family was supposed to do for each other? And then there was the job I had, one I had worked tirelessly to build. 4 years, I climbed the corporate ladder, always with the goal of providing a better life for myself and for my family. I poured everything into it. Long hours at the office, endless projects, the mental and physical strain of pushing myself to be the best. It wasn't easy, but I was determined. I didn't just want success for myself. I wanted to be able to share it with those I loved. That meant security for Clara, a comfortable life for my parents, a future where no one would have to struggle. When I was diagnosed with cancer, everything changed. My entire world flipped upside down in an instant. The doctors told me that my condition was serious, that I needed to start treatment immediately. At first, I thought I could fight it off, that I could push through. But the more I learned about my illness, the more I realized just how much of a toll it would take, not just on my body, but on my life. I tried to keep working, to keep up appearances. I didn't want anyone to know how much I was suffering. But as the treatments wore on, the fatigue became overwhelming. I could barely focus at work, and the once familiar world of deadlines and meetings became a distant memory. Slowly, my professional life crumbled beneath the weight of my illness. The hardest part was knowing that I was no longer the person I once was, the dependable, hard-working sibling, the one who had it all together. I could no longer be the rock for my family, the one who fixed things, the one who provided. I had to admit to myself that I needed help. It was a humbling, painful realization. Still, I didn't want to be a burden. I refused to let my family see how much I was struggling. I pushed them away, even as they offered to help. I didn't want them to pity me, didn't want them to feel sorry for me. I had always been the strong one, the one who took care of everything. To ask for help felt like a betrayal of everything I had built, everything I had been. But it was hard to deny that I needed them. And that was when the cracks in our family dynamic began to show. Clara, in particular, seemed to be growing distant. I thought it was because of the strain of my illness. Maybe she was scared. Maybe she didn't know how to handle it. I tried not to read too much into it. After all, she had a family of her own now. She was busy with her children, her own life. I told myself that was all it was. But when I began to need her most, Clara was nowhere to be found. It was at that moment, when I was at my most vulnerable, that the betrayal began to form. The thing that had always kept me grounded, the thing I thought I could always rely on, had slowly begun to unravel. My family wasn't what I thought it was. I had given them everything. My time, my money, my life. And in return, they began to see me as a liability, a burden they no longer wanted to carry. The truth, though, was far darker than I ever imagined. I would soon discover that the betrayal wasn't just happening in small, subtle ways. It was far more deliberate than I could have ever anticipated. And it would break me. Or so they thought. It would take a secret I had kept hidden for years, to bring everything to light, to make me realize that my fate was still in my hands. That no matter how far they pushed me, no matter how much they took from me, I still had a way to fight back. But that moment was still a long way off. For now, all I could do was process the pain, the confusion, and the loss. And I had no idea that, soon, everything I thought I knew about my family, my life, and my future would change forever. I thought I had seen the worst of it when Clara called that night, her cold words reverberating in my mind, but that was only the beginning. As the days passed, it became clear that the betrayal wasn't just a fleeting decision made in a moment of panic. It was a calculated plan. The house, the one thing that had been my anchor, was no longer mine. The weight of it pressed down on me more heavily than the cancer ever could. I tried to reach out to my parents, to get some clarity on what was happening. But every phone call I made went unanswered. The silence felt louder than the words Clara had spoken. I felt abandoned, not just by my family, but by the very people who had raised me to believe that loyalty and love were the foundations of everything. To see them turn their backs on me in my time of need, it shattered me. And yet, amid this storm of betrayal, I found something I hadn't expected: anger. It didn't come all at once. At first, it was numbness, a sense of disbelief that slowly morphed into a quiet, simmering rage. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how deeply my family had undermined me. They hadn't just decided to sell the house. They had chosen to abandon me in every sense of the word. The home I had spent years making my own, the sanctuary where I had healed and built my life, was now on the chopping block because of my illness. They had made a decision that affected my future, my memories, my sense of stability, without ever consulting me. They didn't even care enough to give me a say in the matter. And Clara, my sister, the one person I thought I could count on, had been the one to lead the charge. I couldn't fathom it. My mind kept circling back to the same question. Why? The realization that my family had chosen to disregard me wasn't just a wound. It was an affront to everything I had worked for, everything I had given. How could they do this? How could they take what was mine and turn it into something they could profit from? In the midst of all this chaos, I received a letter. It was from a lawyer, one I didn't recognize, but the name on the envelope was enough to send a jolt of panic through me. It was official. My family had started the legal process of selling the house. Not only had they decided to strip away my security, but they had also made it a legal matter, something beyond my control. The letter was cold and formal. There was no sympathy in it, no acknowledgement of the pain this was causing me. Just an outline of the steps they were taking to move forward with the sale. The worst part was that they were moving quickly. The signatures were already in place, the deals were being made. They were erasing my past without so much as a second thought. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of the betrayal settling deep in my chest. My body was tired from the constant treatments, my spirit broken by the coldness of my family's actions. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew one thing. I couldn't let this go. I couldn't let them take everything from me. That was when I remembered. There was something I had done years ago, something I had kept secret from everyone, even my closest friends. I had been planning for the future, for a time when I might not be able to take care of myself. My illness had come on suddenly, but the idea of one day being vulnerable, of needing help, had always been in the back of my mind. And so, years ago, I had taken steps to ensure that I would never be entirely at the mercy of others, especially not at the mercy of my family. I had set up a trust fund. It wasn't much at the time, but it had grown over the years. I had diversified my investments, made smart decisions, and slowly but surely, I had built a safety net for myself. I knew I could rely on it in case of emergencies. But I had never told anyone about it. Not Clara, not my parents, not anyone. It was my secret, my backup plan for a time when I would need to stand on my own. And now, with everything crumbling around me, it was the only thing I could turn to. I picked up the phone and called the lawyer. His name was Michael Davis, and I had met him years ago when I first set up the trust. He was one of the few people I had trusted with my financial matters. It was a strange thing to do, to reach out to someone for help when I had always prided myself on handling things on my own, but I had no choice. I had to take control. "Mr. Davis," I said when he answered, my voice shaking slightly, "I need your help. I have a situation that needs to be handled immediately." "Of course," he replied, his voice calm and reassuring. "I'll take care of it. What's going on?" I explained the situation, the betrayal, the house, the legal action my family had taken without my consent. I told him about the trust fund I had established, how it had grown over the years, and how I now needed it more than ever. "I need you to make sure that my family can't access this money," I told him. "I need to make sure they can't touch it. It's mine, and they can't take it." There was a long pause on the other end of the line, and for a moment, I thought he was going to tell me that it was impossible. But then he spoke. "I can help you with that," he said. "We'll make sure everything is locked down. If they try to take anything from you, we'll make sure they're stopped." It was a lifeline. I had been backed into a corner, but now, I had a way out. My family thought they had won, thought they had stripped everything from me. But they had underestimated me. I wasn't as defenseless as they believed. From that moment forward, I knew what I had to do. I wasn't going to let them take everything I had built. The house, the memories, the life I had worked for, they would not get away with it. I would fight for it all. And I would fight for something even more important, my dignity. But this was just the beginning. The battle was far from over, and I wasn't sure what the future would hold. What I did know was that I had a plan, and now, I had the resources to execute it. I had been betrayed, yes, but I wasn't broken. I would rise from the ashes of this betrayal and take control of my life again. And in doing so, I would reclaim not just what was taken from me, but the strength I had lost along the way. It was strange, the way life had a way of suddenly shifting beneath your feet when you least expected it. One minute, I was drowning in the suffocating weight of betrayal, my body and mind ravaged by the relentless onslaught of illness and family abandonment. The next, I had a lifeline, a secret I had kept for years, a safety net that no one knew about, and the knowledge that I had the power to shift the entire narrative in my favor. The trust fund I had set up so many years ago was more than just a financial cushion. It was my backup plan. The decision to keep it a secret from everyone had been deliberate. I had seen too many families torn apart by money, too many relationships soured over disputes about inheritance and wealth. I didn't want to be another victim of those petty battles. And so, I had ensured that no one, not even Clara, would have access to it. It wasn't that I didn't love them. I did, deeply. But the world of illness and financial strain had made me realize just how quickly people could change when their backs were against the wall. And now, I had to turn that secret into something real, something powerful enough to stop them from taking everything I had worked for. I didn't tell Clara about the trust fund, and I didn't tell my parents. But as the legal proceedings continued to move forward, I knew it was time to use it to my advantage. With Mr. Davis, the lawyer I had trusted, on my side, I was ready to fight. The trust fund wasn't just some hidden savings. It was a tool, a resource, a way to fight back. And now, it was time to put it into action. As I met with Mr. Davis in his office a few days later, I could feel the weight of the decision I was about to make pressing on my chest. He looked over the documents I had brought, going over every detail of the trust, the legal protections I had put in place. "You've done well," he said as he scanned the papers. "You've made sure your family won't have access to this unless you authorize it." The relief I felt at hearing those words was bittersweet. I had spent so many years building this, not knowing if I would ever need it, but knowing that, in case I did, it would be my last line of defense. The fact that I was now facing my family over something so fundamental, ownership of my life, of my memories, of my future, felt surreal. "I want you to make sure that the trust remains intact," I told him, voice steady. "I don't want them touching a cent of it, not a penny. They've taken everything from me already. This is all I have left." Mr. Davis nodded, his expression serious. "Understood. We'll set up the legal protections and ensure that they can't access it. But you need to know that this isn't just about protecting money. It's about taking control of your future." His words hit me harder than I expected. This wasn't just about money. It was about something deeper. It was about reclaiming my autonomy, my dignity, my power. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. My family might have believed they could take my home, my security, my sense of self, but they hadn't counted on me fighting back. They hadn't counted on me having a secret plan of my own. But the fight wasn't just going to be about stopping them. It was going to be about proving to myself that I still had the strength to fight, to take charge of my own destiny. I had allowed myself to be a passive participant in my own life for too long, letting my family make decisions for me, letting them dictate what was best for me. Now that was going to change. The next few weeks were a blur. I focused all my energy on the legal battle, working with Mr. Davis to get everything in place. The more I learned about my family's actions, their attempt to sell the house, to claim ownership over everything I had worked for, the more determined I became. It was no longer just about the house. It was about everything they had taken from me. It was about control, about not letting them decide what was left of my life. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more going on, something darker behind the scenes. There were moments when I would hear something in the tone of the phone calls, or catch a glance from Clara when we spoke, and I would get the feeling that there was more to the story than I was being told. Something wasn't adding up, and I couldn't ignore it. The first real breakthrough came when I was going through some old files, looking for documents related to the trust, when I found something unexpected. It was a letter, an old email, dated years before my diagnosis. I didn't remember writing it, but the words on the page were unmistakable. It was a letter to Clara. A letter I had written when I first set up the trust fund. In it, I explained my reasoning for setting it up, my fears about what might happen if I ever became too ill to take care of myself. But it wasn't just about money. I had written it to Clara because I was afraid that, one day, she might need to understand why I had done what I had done. Why I had kept my financial matters separate. Why I had kept my plans hidden. I had written it to explain the secret that I hadn't shared with anyone. A secret that, now, seemed even more important than ever. And buried within that letter was a small, seemingly insignificant line, something that at the time had felt like an afterthought. If anything happens to me, the house, everything I've worked for, should go to you. But only if you promise not to let anyone else take it from you. Not even Mom or Dad. Promise me you'll protect what's mine. I reread that line over and over again, the weight of it sinking in. I had trusted Clara with this. I had believed that, despite everything, she would understand the value of what I had built, the importance of protecting it. And yet now, it seemed as though she was the one leading the charge to take it away from me. But it was more than just that. There was something in her voice, in the way she had spoken to me, that had made me question everything. She hadn't just been acting out of concern for the family. No, there was something more, something personal. And I was determined to find out what it was. At that moment, everything clicked. The betrayal wasn't just about the house. It was about something else, something deeper, something personal between Clara and me. The trust, the wealth, the house. It was all a smokescreen for something more sinister that had been brewing beneath the surface for years. And I would find out exactly what that was. I had been playing defense long enough. Now, it was time to go on the offense. The stage was set for the final confrontation, and I wasn't going to let anyone, least of all my sister, take what was rightfully mine. It was time to uncover the truth. And when I did, the pieces of the puzzle would finally fall into place. The days following my discovery of that letter were some of the most emotionally charged of my life. I had always believed that my relationship with Clara was strong, built on years of shared experiences and trust. But now, with everything unraveling, I began to question the foundation of it all. The betrayal wasn't just about the house or the money. It was about something far more personal. And Clara was at the center of it. The letter I had found revealed something I hadn't considered. That, in the event of my death, the house, everything I had worked for, was supposed to go to her. I had trusted her with my legacy, my home, believing that she would be the one to protect it. But now, it seemed as if she was the one actively trying to strip it all away. It was a bitter realization, one that cut deeper than any of the betrayals my family had already handed me. My own sister, the person I had spent years protecting, the person I had trusted with my most important possessions, had turned on me. The house wasn't just a building. It was everything to me. It held memories of my childhood, the years I had spent building a life, the comfort I had created for myself after years of sacrifice. And now it seemed like Clara was not only taking it from me but betraying the very essence of what I had believed our bond was built on. I couldn't let this go. I wasn't going to let her, and by extension, my parents, take everything from me. But I also knew that I couldn't confront her without more information, without knowing exactly what was happening behind the scenes. I had to dig deeper, to uncover the full scope of what they were planning. I reached out to Mr. Davis again, this time with a more urgent request. I needed him to help me track down any documents or actions that had taken place without my knowledge. Anything that would shed light on Clara's role in this betrayal. I had to know the full truth before I could make my next move. "What are you looking for?" he asked, his voice steady and professional. "I need to know if Clara has been making moves behind my back," I said, my voice tight. "If she's been in contact with anyone about the house, or if there are any papers I haven't signed, I need to know." Mr. Davis didn't ask any more questions. He knew I was in a delicate position, and he promised to find out everything I needed to know. In the meantime, I tried to process everything that had happened so far. The cancer, the betrayal, the loss of my home, and the realization that my sister might have been orchestrating it all. It was overwhelming. The emotional toll was staggering, but in the midst of the chaos, a small part of me felt something else. Power. For the first time since I had been diagnosed, I felt like I was in control again. The trust fund, the lawyer, the letter, it was all coming together in a way that I hadn't expected. But I wasn't just fighting for my home anymore. I was fighting for myself. For my dignity. For the life I had built. I wasn't going to let anyone take it from me. Not my family, not anyone. A few days later, Mr. Davis called with the information I had been waiting for. Clara had been in contact with a real estate agent, arranging for the house to be sold. Worse, she had been discussing legal steps with my parents to transfer ownership of the property, bypassing me entirely. They hadn't been upfront about it. They hadn't told me any of this, even though it was my home. It was all being done in secret, behind my back, as if I didn't even matter anymore. The feeling of betrayal surged again, sharper than before. But this time, it was different. This time I was armed with knowledge. And that knowledge gave me strength. I wasn't going to let Clara, or anyone, control my fate anymore. With Mr. Davis's help, I initiated legal action. I couldn't just sit back and let them continue with their plans. I filed for an injunction to prevent the sale of the house until the matter was resolved. I made sure the trust fund remained untouched, legally protected from any outside interference. But I knew that this fight wasn't just about the house. It was about standing up for myself, about proving that I could still fight for what was mine, even if the world seemed determined to take it all away. The process was grueling. Every day, I felt the weight of my illness pressing down on me, the physical toll of the cancer treatments sapping my energy. But each time I thought about giving up, I thought of the betrayal, the family I had trusted, the people I had loved and supported, and I pushed forward. I wasn't just fighting for my house. I was fighting for my life, my identity, my future. The legal battles dragged on for weeks. There were court hearings, endless meetings with Mr. Davis, and a constant barrage of paperwork. But through it all, I held on. I refused to back down. With every document I signed, every decision I made, I felt a small sense of victory. I was taking control. And then, one morning, I received a call from Mr. Davis that changed everything. "We've won," he said, his voice firm and decisive. "The injunction has been granted. The house is yours. Your family can't sell it, not without your consent." I couldn't believe it at first. After everything that had happened, after the lies, the secrecy, and the betrayal, I had finally won. It was more than just a victory in court. It was a victory over the people who had tried to strip away everything I held dear. It was a moment of empowerment, a reminder that no matter how dark things seemed, I still had the strength to fight back. But the victory didn't come without its cost. As I prepared for the next phase, to heal and rebuild my life, I knew that things with my family would never be the same. The trust had been broken. The bond that had once been unshakable had been fractured, and I didn't know if it could ever be repaired. I didn't know if Clara and I would ever be able to return to the way we were before. But I also knew that I couldn't go back. I couldn't pretend that everything was fine. I had seen too much, learned too much, and I couldn't unsee the truth of what had happened. I had fought for my future, and now, it was time to rebuild it. On my terms. As I sat in the quiet of my home that evening, I thought back on everything that had led me here. The betrayal, the pain, the struggle, it had all been necessary. It had forced me to see the world in a new way, to understand the power I held, even when it seemed like I had nothing left. I was no longer the person I had been before all of this. I wasn't the one who gave everything for everyone else, the one who lived in the shadows of family loyalty. I was someone different now. Someone stronger. And as I looked around the house that had once felt like a prison and now felt like a victory, I knew one thing for sure. I was ready for whatever came next. The journey wasn't over. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was in control.